Last May, it was announced that Disney would be laying off 14% of its Pixar staff. And the reason cited for why they're doing that is because they're trying to cut costs and scale back on content. And while I do think there is some truth to that, one of the rumors that was circulating around this was that Disney was trying to get rid of many of the activists working at the company, because a lot of these people working at the company, the activist types, are trying to use the movies and shows that they're putting out as a soapbox to push their own political agenda. And we've seen over the last couple of years that whenever Disney is overtly embracing politics in a lot of their movies, they seem to be failing for them. So this was Disney's way of trying to actually get rid of many of these people so they don't have to worry about that in the future. Now, at the time, this was just rumors, but we have this other story coming out where Disney was making deliberate efforts to cut a storyline in the upcoming show, Win or Lose, that features a trans character, and they're trying to remove any mention of the character being trans because they understand that this is divisive and families aren't going to want to watch this show if they have to have these type of conversations with their children afterwards. And now we're getting some of the ex-Pixar staffers, some of whom have actually worked on this movie or worked on this show, are really upset about this, which does suggest that these are the type of people that Disney fired because they were just using Disney and all their resources as a way for them to push their own personal political agenda, regardless of whether or not it's actually good for the company and the shareholders. Ex-Pixar staffers decry Win or Lose trans storyline being scrapped. Can't tell you how much I cried. One consultant on the episode says the company is asking someone to play someone they're not by changing the character's voice by trans actress Chanel Stewart to cisgender. Yes, that's what acting is. People play characters that's not really them. That's not unusual, particularly in voice acting. People can play whatever type of character as long as their voice matches. It doesn't matter whether the character on screen actually matches the person voicing them. So I think that's kind of a stupid argument right there. Some of the creatives who helped shape the transgender storyline for the Pixar series Win or Lose are mourning its loss after The Hollywood Reporter broke the news last week that the character at its center will now be portrayed as cisgender. It hardly surprised me, but it devastated me. Sarah Littich, I'm mispronouncing it, I'm sure, a former Pixar assistant editor who consulted on the episode, tells The Hollywood Reporter, for a long time, Disney has not been in the business of making great content. They have been in the business of making great profits, even as far back as 2 years ago when I was at Pixar. We had a meeting with then CEO Bob Chapek, and they were clear with us that they see animation as a conservative medium. I don't think it's as much as animation is a conservative medium, as in people like this, Sarah, I'll just say Sarah, sees politics as a binary, kind of ironic if you ask me, but a lot of the people like the so-called conservative side who don't like when Disney is overtly embracing identity politics in their movies, they're not saying that you need to make it conservative and you need to have like a MAGA type Pixar movie or anything like that. They're saying like, just don't have anything in it. Just make it neutral. And if that's the case, then we're going to like it. But this person, she sees it as one or the other. If you're not pushing our agenda, then you're pushing the other agenda, even if the other side is basically saying, we don't want you to push any agenda. We just want it to be neutral. And I think Disney is starting to look at this and saying, like, if we just make it completely neutral, we have more of a broad appeal to audiences versus if we just make it heavily one side, well, then we're only going to be appealing to that particular demographic. And that's why Disney is trying to say to not, or basically stop doing that, just try to appeal to as wide an audience as possible. And if you really are going to try to make it political, you can also understand the fact that Pixar movies tend to be for the family demographic, parents taking their kids to see them. And just kind of as a general, actually, I think that's not even a general rule. It's just kind of what the data has shown us, that conservative parents tend to have kids or tend to have more kids than left-leaning parents. So if Disney is trying to appeal to anyone, they should probably be trying to appeal to that demographic because that's really their bread and butter in this one. But like I said, they're not trying to necessarily push an agenda by pushing a conservative agenda. They're just trying to be neutral, which I guess to this person, that means being conservative. And if that's how she feels, then all right, she's allowed to have her opinion. I just think that she's wrong on that matter. As the Hollywood Reporter reported, win or lose, focusing on a middle school co-ed softball team called the Pickles, with a voice cast including Will Forte as coach, is scuttling a storyline involving a character named Kai expressing her trans identity. A spokesperson for Disney, which acquired the acclaimed animation studio in 2006, said in a statement that many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects with their children on their own terms and timeline. Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable. They try to say in this article that there's a lot of mature storylines that are in Disney animation ones. It says in the following paragraph, like death of parents, like in Lion King or Bambi, a substance use in Alice in Wonderland and Pinocchio, etc. It's like, and yes, Disney does have that sort of thing. And we've seen in the past that parents are fine with having that type of subject matter in animated films. That doesn't mean all mature subject matter needs to be available in animated films. Pornography, for instance, is a mature element. That doesn't mean you need to feature it in Pixar movies or in Disney animated movies that are meant for children. So I think parents are allowed to pick and choose what subjects they actually want to be able to discuss with their children. Some subjects we've seen over the last couple of years, they don't want to discuss. And as a result, they don't watch movies and TV shows that feature those sort of elements in them. Other ones, they're willing to actually watch those things, like Inside Out 2, highly successful, came out this last year, that deals with mental health and other things like that. And apparently parents are willing to have that discussion with their children, and that movie was wildly successful. And I think Inside Out 2 is kind of a good example to bring up when it comes to this sort of thing, because there were deliberate efforts in that movie in the background to try to remove any insinuation that the lead character Riley was actually gay in that. And there was Pixar people who were upset about that at the time, that they were removing that element to it. But Disney felt that it was necessary, and as a result, it was a highly profitable movie. Now, maybe I shouldn't say as a result it was profitable, because maybe the movie would have been successful even if those elements were still left in it. We just don't know. But one thing I do know for sure is that the movie was successful, and after the movie was released, a lot of the words surrounding it from parents was that it's not pushing any political agenda, it's not having any LGBTQ stuff in the movie whatsoever. It was just kind of a middle of the road family movie, maybe geared more towards little girls, but still, it was just kind of a middle of the road movie, free of all messaging. So then more parents went and saw it because they don't have to worry about having those awkward conversations. And this is kind of what Disney is talking about in regards to this series as well. The episode in its final form was so beautiful and beautifully illustrated some of the experiences of being trans, and it was literally going to save lives by showing those who feel alone and unloved that there are people out there who understand. Okay, I think this is being a little bit hyperbolic, saying you need to see trans characters on screen in order to save life. This is basically just the meme at this point. If you don't feature it, then you're killing them. It's like, first of all, this is just emotional blackmail, and we've seen that it really doesn't work anymore. People are tired of this sort of thing. And honestly, if you need that, see yourself being represented on screen like this in order to keep yourself from offing yourself, then I think you probably have a mental illness and you need to be addressed, because whatever's you've been doing isn't working for you. Says one former Pixar employee who did not work directly on the show, but had seen it and asked to remain anonymous. The insiders note that the episode had changed significantly from older footage that has circulated on social media last week, and showed the character deliberately deliberating over which bathroom to use. So it's just very frustrating that Disney has decided to spend money to not save lives. Spend money to not save life. This is really the people, like it says, this is a former Pixar employee. So this is the type of people that Disney got rid of. Someone who thinks that you have to put this stuff in it, otherwise you're killing children. So I think it is fair to say at this point that a lot of the people that they got rid of in that mass wave of firings were people who were just using the shows and movies that Pixar was producing as a springboard to push their own agenda. And Disney isn't really about that, or they shouldn't be about that. They should be about making entertaining content for family audiences, because that's their target demographic. And it seems like that's really what they're trying to do with this upcoming show. Pixar's movies of late have spurred debate about the direction of its projects and whether it intends to prioritize diversity after the company laid off 14% of its staff in May. Peter Docter, the Inside Out director who replaced John Lasseter as chief creative officer in 2018, raised eyebrows with an interview about the company's latest goals. In light of Pixar seeing a few titles underperform in recent years, Docter said that the studio should make the most relatable films possible, which was perceived by some as advocating for a shift away from more autobiographical stories centering on underrepresented characters and voices. And because self-inserts really just haven't been working out for them, and that's why they're saying like, hey, maybe we should stop doing that and go back to doing what was successful for us. His remarks came in the wake of 2022 criticism of Chapek's response to the Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. That's actually just the anti-grooming bill that is getting rebranded as Don't Say Gay bill. This was followed later that year by right-wing pundits creating a furor over the same gender kiss in Pixar's 2022 Toy Story spin-off movie Lightyear. Recently, members of the team behind Disney Channel's animated series Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur made headlines with social media posts noting that the company had decided not to release an episode centering on a recurring transgender character. Now they're just kind of going and saying this is just all political and stuff like that. And this wouldn't be happening if Biden was in office, or well, even though he's still in office. They think the only reason this is happening is because Trump won the election. So Disney's trying to change course. And maybe there is some truth to that, because we did see that a lot of people are overwhelmingly rejecting this agenda that Disney and Pixar has been pushing out the last couple of years. But like I said earlier, when it came to Inside Out 2, that movie was highly successful and it didn't have any of that stuff in it. It was just middle of the road. And meanwhile, a lot of movies, like even says in this article, Lightyear, for instance, just had a same-sex couple that was kind of an insignificant part of the movie overall, but still, it was present in it, and that's all that people were talking about in the lead up and after the release of that movie, and that movie was a colossal failure for them. So I think Disney and its executives are starting to understand, like, we need to stop doing this sort of thing if we want to actually be profitable again. So first step is to get rid of a lot of people at these companies that are championing these causes and trying to push it, and if you're trying to get rid of it, they're going to be difficult about it. It said when it comes to this upcoming series, Win or Lose, that the people who are still present at the company who are working on to change things on it were given a choice whether or not they wanted to work on the episode, and apparently no animator there actually objected to working on it. So it seems like the people currently at Pixar now don't really care about using the shows or movies as a way of pushing a political message. The only people who are upset about this are the people who are no longer at the company right now. So maybe this could be shifting winds right now, with people at Pixar now just going to be using it as an opportunity to tell stories that families can enjoy, or maybe this is just kind of a one-off fluke and we're going to see in the future that they're going to go back to using it as a means of pushing their agenda. We'll just have to wait and see, but right now it looks like Disney is starting to understand, don't risk alienating your audience, or at least a large portion of your audience, in order to try to push your own political agenda. And maybe that's just going to be the future of them, or maybe it's just going to be a one-off thing. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Do you think this is going to be the new normal for Disney moving forward, or do you think they're just going to try to use this as a way of calming the waters before they go back to pushing their agenda? Comment below, let me know. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.